It's my pleasure to introduce Katie Cortese. During the Jewish celebration of Passover, we say Dayenu, which means it would have been sufficient or it would have been enough. We discuss the things that God has done for us, the satisfaction that we feel, and we give thanks. This sentiment of satisfaction is how I feel when it comes to Katie Cortese. I first encountered Katie's outstanding prose in the pages of Nanofiction, where I work as a web editor. Years later, when I came to visit FSU, I saw that she was a grad student here, and I found out that, in addition to writing flash fiction, she also writes longer stories. Stories that are so good, they end up on the pages of prestigious journals such as Narrative, Harper Pallet, and Crab Orchard Review. And I felt, had she simply written fabulous flash fiction and not gone on to write heartfelt and funny longer stories, that would have been sufficient. But then I found out that she didn't just publish flash fiction and longer stories, she also tackled other genres, publishing poems in the Comstock Review and Pank, and placing essays in Marginalia and Passages North. And had she gone on to publish in all three genres, but not then decided to embark on a novel by writing not only a YA book, but also an historical novel, it would have been sufficient. But then, come to find out, she has done all of this while working as the editor of the Southeast Review. And had she tackled a YA novel and historical novel, published in three genres, all while serving as the editor-in-chief of the Southeast Review, and then not been a really, really awesome and genuinely nice person, then I think we can all agree that would have been sufficient. But the truth of the matter is, as amazing as she looks on paper, Katie Cortese is even better in person. She is caring and a patient teacher and a loyal and considerate friend. Even when she was in the thick of what turned out to be a very successful job hunt, she made the time to meet me for coffee and even give articulate feedback on drafts we had exchanged. As her friend, she always makes me feel like there is time for a quick chat or an email response, even when I know there's not. So Katie Cortese, Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the newest member of the fiction faculty at Texas Tech, the lovely and talented Miss Katie Cortese.
Thank you, Sophie. That was really, really sweet. And this is kind of pointed as my last reading here, so my third and final, I think. I don't think John Wong could be here tonight, but he was a person who I ran into my first semester here in the Big Dodd basement, which, as lovely as that is, I'm sure many of you know. I was totally lost and covered in asbestos, and he said, what's your name? Do you want to read? And I said, okay. And then that was sort of my introduction to him and to the school, and it's just sort of continued to be welcoming and to offer so many opportunities and colleagues to work with and committee members with whom I would never have sort of finished anything, I don't think, or been going anywhere, never mind to a job. So I'm so grateful for everybody that I've met here and for you all coming up tonight and to read here with Jackie. It's a wonderful honor, and I've had a great 5 years. They go by really fast. This story is called Firebug, and it actually came out into the world 2 weeks ago. So this is a revision of that story because I'm obsessed with revisions. So it's about 4 pages shorter than that version, but it's also sort of a compendium of a lot of things that different people told me that I couldn't write, like slipstream fiction, or fiction about teenage girls, or second person. So you can decide if the rules were sort of broken consciously or recklessly, but either way, it's called Firebug. It starts as a buildup of energy that rises from the pads of your toes to fill the space behind your eyes. As always, you think you can control it, but in the next second, your sister's hair is burning, split ends giving off a familiar smell of crisping coconut shampoo. Everyone is used to your fits, and Margaret doesn't even scream. Instead, she grabs one of the damp washcloths your family keeps around the house. They're everywhere, flung over staircase banisters, balancing on doorknobs, wadded up on the ancient, bulky television. It's your chore to wash these cloths often. Most have scorch marks burned into their soft, no-color fibers. Considering your condition, it's a small miracle there's only been one major fire, when you were just a baby. This time, your sister extinguishes her hair, then dials her stylist while tendrils of smoke rise from her head in sinuous threads. She gets a special rate for emergency trims, a frequent customer thing. While she waits for mad cutters to pick up, Margaret glares at you from across the room. You should be practicing ujjayi breath, but instead you glare back, holding your ground for once, shaky though it may be. A week ago, you would not have had this argument. But a week ago, the boy in driver's ed hadn't asked if you were going to the junior ring dance, which Margaret is in charge of organizing. You've never been to a dance or wanted to go, but no one ever cared if you went before, especially no one like the boy with his array of multicolored Sharpies who pens portraits on your hands in the back of Mr. Baum's modified Civic while the other student driver jerks you around your small town. He'd asked if you were going to the dance, which is not the same as asking you to go with him. Still, you want to see him outside of Mr. Baum's back seat, even if it might be dangerous. You told him you were going with friends, which was risky since you have none. He'd nodded, adding blue feathers to the parrot he'd outlined on the back of your right hand, the felt tip of his pen raising pins and needles in the soles of your sandaled feet. When Mr. Baum dropped you at home, you'd asked Margaret if you could ride to the dance with her. She laughed before realizing you were serious, then put a hand on your arm. "Jessie," she'd said, "what if someone pisses you off and you go all carry on their asses?" "I haven't had an incident since January," you'd said, which was 5 long months ago. At least, no major ones. Even then, only the mailbox was hurt with its burden of slick college brochures reminding you how Margaret would go into the world soon, and you would watch her go from your bedroom window like a cloistered Victorian madwoman. These days, Margaret brings in the mail from its new flame-retardant box. "No," she'd said, squeezing gently, "I don't think the dance is a good idea." That was all it took to ignite a burst. You fought it all the way and were lucky it was a small one, but Margaret's smoldering hair ended up proving her point. "I'm going," you say now, getting your breath back, whether you like it or not. She turns away, speaking to her hairdresser, whose thick Eastern European accent leaks through the cell. It's easy for Margaret to say no when she's been to every dance and game and pep rally you have sat out. In the past, you did it gladly, smugly. You were above it. Only now does it seem unfair. You are better at controlling your condition now. Only the tips of her hair were damaged. It's a definite improvement. If Margaret had come down with pyrokinesis instead of you, maybe she'd understand what it meant to have Sharpie Boy look through the fringe of his bangs and say he was going to stop by the dance with his buddies. But she was born perfect and stayed that way. This is not to say Margaret is wrong about the dance. The feeling gives you little warning. When it rushes up from the soles of your feet, you feel if you don't project it out and away, your body will spontaneously combust, which is impossible, according to Mr. Geldin, your chem teacher. But then, so is your disease. You've managed not to be a freak at school by keeping to the back rows, striving for middle-of-the-road grades that don't get you noticed. You have no close friends, on purpose. Your family protects you, and you try not to burn them up. Going to the dance might be a bad idea, but you are tired of playing it safe. Your mom's theory is hormones. You'll outgrow it like you outgrew the Backbeat Boys. It's back street, you've told her again and again, and though no amount of torture, blackmail, or bribery could drag it out, you still have a thing for Nick Carter. You're right as usual, you tell Margaret when she hangs up, though when she leans in for a hug, you pretend to tie your shoes and keep your real decision to yourself. Your house is bordered on 3 sides by water. You suspect this is by design, though your parents swear it is coincidence. They've lived on the Cape since long before you were born. But it does seem convenient, since as a child, your fits could be quelled by tossing you in the ocean at the pivotal moment. You think it was distraction more than the water that stopped you, but your parents only knew it worked. Until it stopped working when puberty hit. In elementary school, your fits came twice a year, sometimes 3, but in junior high, they started coming every other week. The uptick scares you, especially since your parents quit looking for a cure. Even when they could get a doctor to believe, no one knew how to treat you. So now your mother says hormones, like a mantra, and tracks your calm streaks on the calendar. You are 16 and a half, old enough to apply for your Massachusetts junior operator's license, provided you pass driver's ed. You are 2 supervised sessions from done, but driving scares the crap out of you. It's not the mechanics you fear, but the ticking time bomb of your temper during traffic standstills. Your driver's ed teacher, Mr. Baum, knows about your condition. The other drivers are Tanya, the goth girl, and Sharpie boy, who you've liked since he transferred in from St. Sebastian's. While Mr. Baum zips at Tanya to enter the rotary, the boy draws on you in the back seat until you have to practice pranayama, yogic breath control that sometimes delays your fits, which arise from any excess of emotion, good ones included. Mr. Baum prods the others to engage their blinkers, adjust their mirrors, keep their hands at 10 and 2. During halting 3-point turns, he times them. When you drive, he holds a squirt bottle of water as if you are a wayward house pet. So far, you have been too distracted while driving to muster the energy for a fit, but you fear the day driving becomes second nature when a bout of road rage could go terribly, terribly wrong. I'm so stressed, your sister says at the dinner table. The dance is 2 weeks away. Preparations are reaching critical mass. She's pressed friends into service as ticket takers and decorators. Her boyfriend Rodney will man the snack table, but he is not happy about it. He'd rather smoke joints by the track shed with his friends. Margaret thinks you have given up on the dance, but you are planning to bike there in one of her dresses. She will not want to seem like a bitch in front of her friends and will let you buy a ticket at the door. You stole a pink tube dress from her closet and a pair of sparkly heels. You have to squash a tiny burst now, shoveling in a mouthful of salad and chewing steadily at the thought of Sharpie boy seeing you dressed up. You are afraid of dancing with him, but you are more afraid of staying home to watch Sense and Sensibility again. Now, your mother nods in sympathy with Margaret and takes some salad. You notice with pleasure she's trapped a tomato in the tongs as well as some sunflower seeds, which are rich in vitamin E. Your mother eats like a bird, according to your father. You wish she ate like something larger, a cat or even a wolf. You'd like her to wolf down something besides salad. Her bones seem as hollow as the pipes your father plumbs. The dance will be great, your mother tells Margaret, shunting her tomato aside. You wish not for the first time that you'd developed any other neural disorder than the one you have. Telekinesis, so you could move a piece of chicken to her plate. Telepathy, so you could plant the suggestion that she eat more. What about you, Jessica, your father says, mildly, carefully, better safe than roasted. What about me, you say, spearing a transparent slice of cucumber. Your parents don't demand you skip activities. They call it the mature choice. You can't wait to shame them with their lack of faith in you this time. Jessie's not going, your sister says, listing things that could go up in flames, crepe paper, tablecloths, cheese doodles, oversprayed hair. She is not trying to be cruel, but your annoyance balloons into anger. You ask to be excused, then sprint to the backyard just in time to ignite one candle-sized flame in the petunias. When you stamp it out with your clogs that you wear for this purpose, the damage is so negligible that you decide it doesn't count against your streak. The week before the junior ring dance, Mr. Baum is late picking the 3 of you up. You wait with Tanya and the boy who whistles Eye of the Tiger. After a minute, it's clear that Tanya is staring at you, hard. You keep looking for Mr. Baum as if you were anxious to hit the open road. How do you do it? Tanya asks, her tone admiring. You've met her type before. Groupies who think they want what you wish to God you didn't have. Do what, you say, because you're not sure if the boy knows. You'd like to think he wouldn't care, but you don't want to scare him away in case he's interested in you as something more than a canvas. You've only set one fire so far at the high school. Thankfully, it was in Chem Lab. Your partner was more interested in flirting with Mr. Gelden than in helping with your calculations, and you grew frustrated. There were many chemicals on your counter. Any combination could have sparked it, but you blamed a faulty Bunsen burner, and everyone pretended to believe. The rest of your lore is rumor. Some of your cousins don't even know the truth. But Tanya clearly believes. What thing? The boy says. She's pyrokinetic, Tanya says, biting a thumbnail and managing to look both disgusted and flirtatious. She sets shit on fire. Why do you think Mr. Bum Bum has that spray bottle? Like a firebug, he asks, his eyebrows bunched at the center of his forehead. You want to take 2 fingers and smooth them back out, one over each eye. No, Tanya says before you can, tapping her temple, like Drew Barrymore in that old movie. The boy's lips purse as if he is about to whistle again. You laugh, but it comes out like a hairball. Cool, he says, finally. Isn't that Mr. Baum, you say, leaning past the curb? It's not. Give us a demonstration, Tanya says. Her face is flushing up all red. She has probably wanted to say this all year, but this is the last week of driver's ed. You have tried not to think about it as the last time. You will miss the boys' Sharpies gliding on the back of your hand. Plus, there's the actual driving, which you need to practice. You were supposed to take your test in June if you can't find a way to put it off. I'm not giving shows, you say. But you can really do it, he says. It's genuine interest. You see the change. A rush of pride trips up your spine. You free your ponytail to tangle in the wind. Yeah, you say, I can. The thing is, you've never done it on purpose. The bursts come on in inconvenient moments the way you've heard boys get erections in algebra. Cool, he says, smiling as if he always knew you were special and now has proof. Show us at the dance on Saturday, Tanya says. You're going, right? You point to Mr. Baum's car as if you didn't hear her. He tools closer at a snail's pace, and by the time he pulls up, Tanya's face is its usual implacable mask. The car smells like an ashtray, which accounts for his tardiness. He has lectured windily about the perils of smoking while driving. Tanya takes the wheel. In the back seat, the boy chews on the cap of a Sharpie, then tugs your wrist into his lap and starts to draw. Margaret is crying when she gets home on Friday, the day before the dance. Since you belong to no clubs and Margaret plays field hockey, is VP of SGA and heads up Amnesty International SAD and the yearbook committee, you always get home first. She drops her bag in the living room where you are napping with a dog-eared copy of Jane Eyre on your lap and goes back outside, sobbing noisily. What happened, you ask, following her groggily to the front steps. Nothing, she says, her voice thick as she watches the ascending tide slap the jetty beside your house. It's been 2 weeks with no fits, not including the petunias, so she can't be mad at you. You sit next to her. Does everyone at school know about me? You ask. Margaret stops crying to suck in a breath. Yes, she says, most of them. I thought so, you say, though it shouldn't matter. The only thing you've wanted from high school since it started is for it to end. When it finally does, you've thought about studying to be an actress. After all, every day is an act for you. It occurs to you now, though, that life might be easier if you could just stop pretending to be normal. Margaret is still crying. You put a hand on her shoulder. Hey, you say, what's going on? She looks at you through a film of tears. You feel so protective of your sister, small like your mother, but usually so self-assured that a burst begins to fill you like a bubble blown inside a tin can, except this bubble wants to tear you open. Rodney and I broke up, she says, but won't give in to your hug. Don't you get it, she says, hands buried in her hair. He was going to run the snack table. I'm distributing rings all night, she almost screams. No one else can be trusted with the rings. You have time to be grateful Margaret didn't get your disease. Otherwise, half your town would be in cinders. Then the burst resurges, trickling upwards, anti-gravity. Your fingertips tingle, your eyes burn. I'll kill him, you say. You've hated him since you picked up the landline and heard him call you a sideshow freak. Margaret had told him to take that the fuck back, but still. Did he cheat, you ask? She shakes her head no, too quickly, which means yes. Then she says, don't kill him. You wouldn't really try to kill him, of course, but you are worried that the next time you see him, you won't be able to control yourself. You try to breathe in on a 4 count. That asshole, you say, that dick. Do some meditation crap, Margaret says, eyes now dry. Oh, onomatopoeia, whatever it is, say the words. You try hard, but your sister, your best ally, water to your fire, yin to your out-of-control yang, sits next to you with raccoonish eyes because of Rodney, just call me Long Rod Marshall. I shouldn't have told you, she says, standing in a new panic. You can't kill him. I don't care about Alicia or whatever the slut's name is. I still love him. You wouldn't understand. Then you are gripping something inside yourself very, very hard. You close your stinging eyes and listen for the familiar hiss-pop of a fire, but there is nothing except the smack of the screen as Margaret goes inside. Since all your fires are local within a 10-foot radius and no one is in sight, it would be okay to let go now. Instead, you clench harder, riding the curve of the bubble, letting that unbearable pressure build until you are balanced on its crest, and for the first time in your life, you don't let go. For a moment, you fear your eyes will be expelled from your head the way you've heard they would be if you held them open during a sneeze. At the height of your distress, you have to pat yourself to confirm that you have not become the fire. And then, the closest thing to a miracle since your mother saved you during the first fit you barely remember because she has the scars, not you, your personal inferno subsides. It hurts like fire. But after a minute, you can breathe without gasping. And when you peek at the world, you see no flames. It's your first averted fire. You've done it. shown it who's boss. You feel like crying, like celebrating. You are on your feet before you remember Margaret is mad, but rush in to tell her anyway. She is face down on the couch, curiously still. I swallowed the burst, you nearly shriek. She sits up, blinking. You did what? She says. I'll do the table, you say, though it means you won't be able to dance. Let me do refreshments, you say. She peels herself up from the couch. Really? She says. You think you can do it? When you nod, she grabs your hands and the two of you jump up and down until your mother walks in, yawning. Because of her tank top, the pinkish scar tissue on her upper arms is exposed. Margaret tells you what you did. I knew it, your mother says. Hormones. At the dance, your classmates look like beautiful strangers, hair done and shoes shiny. Margaret managed to transform the gym to a ballroom with a roll of craft paper for a red carpet and a few artful clutches of silver balloons. Low lighting illuminates couples grinding on each other in a dazzling sea of sequins against suede, satin against silk. It doesn't even matter that most of what you see is flammable. Of course, you mainly have eyes for Sharpie Boy, who has already danced once with a girl on the swim team. Her hair was blonde and lank, and you imagined it going up like a mentholated Kleenex before regaining control easily and with pride. Since yesterday's snuffed fit, you've reveled in your new delicious ability to pull up short at all your self-imposed stop signs. Though you were afraid you may not talk to Sharpie Boy, never mind dance with him, at the snack table you are a minor goddess of all you survey. When the dancers are thirsty, they must push wrinkled dollars into your hands. You feel so free and easy that you don't mind repeating the price over and over and pretend not to see a flask tucked into the suit coat of one of your most frequent customers. Across the gym, Margaret gives you a thumbs up, which you return. With all your heart, you believe the paper runway safe from your wrath. Even if Rodney shows, you feel confident you can stay cool. Taylor Swift is scolding another imperfect ex when Tanya and her friends sidle up. You fill 4 cups of punch for them, submerging the ladle in the punch's red depths, avoiding floating orange slices. Her, says one of Tanya's friends in an 80s prom dress with a swatch of black lace over her face. Your face fills with an ordinary blush. Thankfully, the dance floor's roving red spotlights can't reach you. You hand the last cup of punch to Tanya, but she doesn't take it. When are you going to do it? Tanya says. You know, poof. You owe Tanya nothing but the punch in your hand and tell her so. We won't tell anyone it was you, Tanya says, reaching at last for the cup, swirling the contents against the plastic. Just light up a streamer, Tanya says. We paid $10 to get in. Yeah, we won't tell, Laceface says, in a way that lets you know they've already spread the word. When a boy cuts through their crowd for a brownie, Tanya's gang drifts away, shaking their heads like you are a promising shih tzu that peed on the judge. Adios, girls, you think, just as Sharpie Boy bellies up to the table in a blue shirt and yellow tie. There you are, he says. You blush again, furiously, fighting an inkling of a burst that you soothe handily. Here I am, you say, leaving one hand on the table so he can see the faint impression of his last drawing, a desert island complete with palm tree and shark's fin. Are you having a good time, you ask? It's nice to see everyone dressed up, he says, looking only at you. You bite your cheek to keep from smiling too broadly. Can you dance later, he asks. I'm supposed to stay here, you say, though when he looks down, you say, maybe my sister can cover me. He gives you his sweet half-smile. One punch, please, he says, top shelf. It's on me, you say, which you hope he recognizes as code for I like you. He grins, bumping into your next customer, who is so familiar that you smile before remembering his crime and that he's supposed to be running this table. You look around for Alicia what's-her-name. You've got some nerve, you hear yourself say. Rodney lifts his hands in surrender. Whoa, he says, I was just trying to thank you for taking the table. Thank me? Does this mean you and Margaret are back together, you say? He squints like you just spoke Swahili. You scan for Margaret, but she is conveniently missing. Long Rod backs away now, hands still raised. Max said you volunteered, he said. Forget I said anything. But you can't forget, because Margaret lied. She knew you were going to the dance and wanted to keep you from having fun. She even fake cried. The fact that she's a better actress than you is the final straw. Leaving your station for the first time all night, you storm across the gym where you spot Margaret surrounded by a clump of friends, hiding there. Stairway to Heaven strains through the speakers, and though you see Sharpie Boy heading back to your table, you don't abandon your mission. He cheated, huh? You lied to me, you tell Margaret, as her friends flanking her scurry off. I was protecting you, she says, her smile solicitous. You don't know, but slow dancing gets intense. Well, you guess this is partly true. The truth is, she was also protecting herself, plus her precious dance, with a lie. She tricked you, manipulated you when your family is supposed to be your safe zone. It's Margaret's job to watch out for you at school. You and your sister make sure your mother doesn't drift back into the depression that's almost killed her several times after you almost killed her, that is. And you protect them all by sitting for hours in a full lotus and counting backwards and never feeling anything fully. You cried, you say. You never cry. Yeah, and you swallowed a burst, she says. Remember? This is also true, but you can't remember that feeling. Your needle is ticking into the red. Shit, 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 you say, nails buried in your palms. You can stop it, right? Margaret says, hands fluttering near you without landing. Just swallow it again. Not this time, you say, and you are sorry, but you don't say so. You stumble for the door, arms pinwheeling for balance in your borrowed heels. Outside, the humid air offers no relief. You wobble down the steps, the metal railing softening to memorize your fingerprints, and rip off your heels halfway down. In the parking lot, tar sticks to your bare soles, but you don't stop running. Not a car, you think, anything but a car. As you streak through the lot, seeking any private corner, a column of orange flumes up from a trash can, barely denting the fit's intensity. You haven't felt a burst this strong since your baby days when your condition first presented. You don't remember that first time, except you remember it all, in a way, because it is Shelby lore, a family secret bigger than your own horrible curse. You run past some kids by the track shed. Rodney's back is to you and his tie begins to smoke as you pass, but he only pats it with the flat of his hand, examining the cherry on his joint. You try to hold back the bulk of your fit a little longer, remembering a sunny morning when you stood at the bars of your crib, drooling onto a hand-me-down shirt of Margaret's reading Daddy's Little Angel. You couldn't speak except for a stream of ma-ma-mas. The crib was in your mother's room where she was napping, something she did most of the day. Your sister was too young to be outside alone, but she was out in the sandbox anyway. You were hot in the sun that striped your crib and hungry. You tried to wake your mother with crying, then with a string of ma-ma-mas. Everyone in your family knows the term postpartum depression now, as well as several other varieties. Then you only knew you wanted to wake her up. Her smooth eyelids enraged you. You see them as you run on feet bleeding, tar-spotted and sore. Weeds in the cracks of the neglected pavement erupt into flame as you pass. You cannot stop to put them out. There is a loading dock near the cafeteria. The dock has a corrugated metal door in a concrete courtyard. It's a place that might save you. As you run, tears sizzle and evaporate from your cheeks on contact. Ma, 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 you'd cried. Ma, ma, ma. She remained still until you realized she wasn't sleeping after all. She was positioning a bed pillow over her head to block you out, as if you didn't exist. You thought none of this exactly and all of it at once. Your rage escalated as only a toddler's can, exponentially, a burning sensation tickling the soles of your tiny feet. At the height of your loudest wail yet, a blanket of fire swept across your mother's bed, covering her like a comforter. The one memory you are sure is authentic to this experience is seeing your mother stare out at you, more surprised than scared, from a halo and necklace made of fire. You cried her name, that string of ma-ma-mas, and she flipped herself onto the ground, snuffing the worst of the flames, then scooping you from the crib where your skin seared hers like a sunburn. The carpet had started to smolder, the dresser was catching. Downstairs, she grabbed the cordless and ran out back where Margaret sat in the sandbox pointing at the column of smoke billowing from your parents' window. The fire department saved the first floor. The second is an addition. Your mother spent a month in the burn unit. She's never blamed you, but that hasn't kept you from blaming yourself. You should have stayed home tonight. It was selfish to want Margaret's kind of life. Ahead of you, a rusty school bus sits up on blocks. The loading dock is beyond it. As you run, gum wrappers spark and flicker by your ankles. You are fooling yourself that you can swallow the burst in the courtyard, that it's not too late, when a hand grazes your shoulder before its owner draws back with a hiss. Jessica, your Sharpie boy says, but when you turn, his eyes widen and the words wither on his lips. Go away, you say, frantic at his proximity. No, he says, surprising you into silence, and then before you can warn him, his hands burrow into your hair. The scream you expect never comes, though, which makes a kind of sense. Hair is only dead cells, after all, and yours is thick, piled high tonight in a mess of curls. All you can think to say is hot, 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 but he leans forward anyway, stupidly unafraid, and you have no time to worry about melting his face off because instead of placing his lips on yours, he purses them to blow a cool breeze across your mouth, an anti-kiss. You part your lips and the cool sweeps in like a breath mint rushing from your nostrils as steam. He's done it, somehow, distracted you enough to slow the fit. You feel some slack in the burst and let out a breath, but when you open your eyes, He gives you his sweet half smile, and you realize no one has dared come this close in a fit except for the first time. No one's touched you on purpose. You'd assume that in the whole of your life, no one would. That's what pushes you over that fiery edge, knowing one person, at least, is brave enough or dumb enough to accept you as you are. You are still puzzling over his presence when the bus behind you disappears into an undulating orange cloud. He flinches, then scalds his fingers, pulling you away by your wrist. I'm sorry, you say, retreating on ruined feet as flames the color of clementines peel paint from the sides of the bus. Don't be, he says. It's beautiful. Sweat runs off his face from your nearness as much as from the fire devouring the machine before you. Watching your handiwork at the front of the gathering crowd, you know you were right to come out tonight after all. Whether you are in control of your destiny or whether you never will be, you know you're done trying to hide. Thank you.